Welcome everybody to the Morning Juice. I'm your host, Juice. Today my guest is my sponsee who fought oxy and cocaine and alcohol addiction, and he is hitting his year actually this week. With that being said, let's welcome in Chef Taylor. What's up, bro?
What's happening?
Now go ahead and tell us your stories.
Well, I wasn't always OxyContin, cocaine, and alcoholic. But, it started off when I was probably about 12 years old. Used to smoke weed here and there and shit. But the way I grew up, I had to provide for me and my sister.
Where are you from?
Jackson and Memphis. My bad, man. I'm fucking
You're
trying to get that shit out. Yeah, I saw a lot of shit from the age of 12 to when I quit living that life around 20. First time I'd ever got arrested, I was 14. I got a possession charge, some simple basic out past curfew bullshit, and luckily in the car, my friend had tossed a gun. If I would have been 14, I'd have caught my first gun charge. Life goes on. I go to juvenile a couple times, in and out of psych wards. And then, this is fast forwarding a lot, just because there's a lot of shit I don't want to get too explicit. 20, maybe 21 is when I really cut that shit out. And left all my affiliations and just tried to better my life. And when I left that life, that's when the PTSD started kicking in. Because when you're living like that, you don't think about that shit. You're trying to turn it off.
Right.
You're not supposed to feel. You're not allowed to feel. You're supposed to just go with it. And so all the robbing people, stealing cars, drug dealing, watching people die in front of me, that shit started to catch up with me and keep me up at night. I smoked weed, I don't know how many years, but that shit just wasn't doing it anymore. And around this time, I was welding, but also a line cook. And I said, I'm working like fucking 90 hours or so. I had to say, fuck that. I want to work for myself. So I started this catering company, and my initial goal was to make at least $100 a day. If I can do that, I can quit my job.
Yeah.
If I could work every single day and make $100 a day, it's $3,100 a month. And back down there I was staying in this city called Milan, Tennessee. The rent was cheap as shit, like $650 a month. My bills on top of that with like electricity, probably like coming out to $900 every month. And food wasn't really an issue because I knew the right ingredients to buy, make it cheap, make it stretch out the month. I quit my job. Probably should have just waited a little bit and catered a little before I started, but I just said, fuck it. If I want to go hard at something, I'm going to go hard at it. That's just my hard-headed ass. You should know. But it turned out good. I didn't start making $100 a day initially. It went from like $50 to $75. But the first time I made $100 in a day was probably like 3 months after. And it almost brought me to tears. And as I started making all this money and shit, months pass on, and now I'm making like really good money. Like $500 a day. There was days I made $1,500, $2,500. And so I started meeting all these newer connections. And during all this, that's when I started drinking because I wanted to network, First time I drank for real was with that fucking shit from a couple weeks ago, still fucking me up. But I went to a bar and had my first Modelo, some little basic shit. Started drinking beers. And I really started liking it. Hold on one second. Yeah, I really started enjoying drinking. Started drinking some cheap ass Tito's and fucking tequilas and shit, and it went from partying to wanting to feel something. And when I got drunk for that first time, I loved it, you know? And through the years of like 15 to 20, you know, I'd tried cocaine before. I'd done other drugs and shit like acid, shrooms, Molly, Percocet, Xanax, Valium, obviously OxyContin, cocaine, probably did meth. Didn't know I was doing meth, but probably did meth. There was a fucked up story where I did heroin, but I didn't voluntarily do it. I just passed out on Xanax at a friend's house and they shot me up. And so that shit was awful. Fast forwarding back to the drinking, you know, the constantly being drunk, it was getting hard to like network with people, especially with like the higher end clients that I was working for. So I met this dude, he was a doctor, and you know, he started writing me prescriptions for OxyContin. And I figured, well, if I can't get drunk all day, but still function, let's do fucking oxys, you know? Cut out the drink. Let's just pop a pill. And then the popping it just wasn't feeling as good as the first high, you know? It's like people that say they try crack for the first time, they chase that shit forever. So then I snorted it for the first time. And I fell in love with that shit. And I needed a little pickup. So I started buying cocaine from this fucking lawyer that I had met, you know, catering for him and birthday parties and weddings and shit like that. And anybody out there that, and no diss to nobody, but your favorite politician, governor, your fucking president is probably doing cocaine right now. I'm gonna be honest. All those people do cocaine. And so that was just the circle that I started getting myself around. And coming to Nashville every other weekend to party and meet celebrities and shit like that was, you know, that's the party drug. So I gotta keep up. And then I started doing it by myself behind closed doors where like I would miss events because I'm so fucked up. And that's when the shit really hit the fan as far as like trying to keep this closeted addiction from getting known to my family.
Right.
And you know, and only after I got out of recovery, or not out of recovery, out of I guess out of myself and being sober now and really involved in recovery. And like my mom just found out, I love you mama, sorry. She just found out recently that like I was doing all that shit. And like it was really hard for me to even try and tell her that. Cause like it's my mom, man. She lost her brother to fentanyl. He overdosed in 201 probably, in Memphis. And you know, watching somebody else podcast and do this shit myself, man, it's fucking rough. But like, I'm just hoping this shit helps somebody, man. Fucking. Once it really started getting to a point where I'm partying every fucking day, all day from sunup to sundown, even working a part-time construction job just to afford a habit, you know. When it came to OxyContin and prescription drugs, I didn't have to. I'd cater for some doctor and knock off a couple hundreds from their bill, and they just write me prescriptions. So I got my opioid fix for free. And you know, as far as alcohol, there's alcohol fucking everywhere.
Right.
So if I go do some catering event, I'm gonna get drunk as fuck. You know, just because of the simple fact that it's there. It's in my personal opinion, you know, there's meth, fentanyl, heroin, crack, cocaine, opioids, weed, you know, all these addictions are fucked. But in my personal opinion, from just hearing so many people's stories, I think what was really the hardest to like just avoid in general, if like there was a day where, man, I'm getting too fucked up, I gotta get a little sober, you know, Cali sober, just smoke weed today.
Right.
It's there. Alcohol is there. It doesn't matter if I'm pumping gas. It doesn't matter if I'm fucking hanging out with a friend. It don't matter what I'm doing. You know, I can't just bump into the gas station. Let me go the back. Oh, meth. Got it. Cocaine.
Right.
Got it.
Right,
You know?
right.
Oh, oxy. There it goes. That's what I was looking for. No, it's fucking in my face. Some Twisted Tea, some Fireball, some whatever. The shit is always there. And I think that's what people struggle with the most about alcoholism, is because you can fucking drive down the road and somebody dropped a 6-pack out their truck and boom, it's just right there. You know, it doesn't matter the age, you can find that shit and get that shit somehow, way or another.
Right.
So, catching back up, the partying shit got to a point where, you know, I'm gonna move to Nashville. That's what my initial plan was. And so I'm getting ready to move out of my house just because I know this is me now. You know, I can't sleep at night. This is what's gonna help me recover, quote unquote, that self-medicated bullshit that only ends you up somewhere else, which we're here now.
Right.
My grandparents were struggling really bad. And my grandfather, he's got Parkinson's, and he reached out to me. And he wanted me to come help out. You know, me and my grandmother did not have a good relationship. To kind of catch, I'm sure I've told you this story before at the ranch. We didn't have a good relationship. She used to say a lot of fucked up shit to my sister, mentally abuse her, physically. She just was not a good grandmother. And my mother and father did the absolute very best they could. They just work a lot, you know, which led me to run the streets doing the dumb shit that I had to do, you know. While I stayed with my dad mostly during my teen years, my sister luckily ended up moving to Paris, and that relationship between them just fell off. So I'm 21, maybe 22, selling all my cars to try and help them out. And I move in with my grandmother, right, to try and help her out. My initial goal was to stay there for 3 months and then just get out, you know, help catch them up. They wanted me to help sell their house because they knew I was involved in real estate. I had the connections in real estate to help make that happen. Help move them out and then help them sell their house and then just go on my own ways. Well, fast forward, and that's like 9 months. And so while having to live with my grandmother, who mistreated my autistic sister, calling her, you know, retarded, which I fucking hate that word, calling her a faggot, which I also hate because love is love. My sister recently just married her wife, and I was actually at the ranch for that experience and didn't get to be there for that, so that sucks. But, you know, I did that to myself, sorta, kinda. This is gonna sum up that. Every other day, she was being rude as fuck, mean as fuck, and just generally mistreating my grandfather. And it got to a point where I couldn't put up with this shit anymore. You know, I told her that I was just gonna leave and I'm not helping you no more. I can't put up with this shit. And what really caused that was I came home after working construction one day, and my grandfather had dropped a coffee mug, like a little glass coffee mug, and it spilt everywhere. You know, if you know about Parkinson's, you shake a lot. So I just cleaned it up real quick, told him, no, it's cool. Don't worry about it. Just relax. Like it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
I'll clean it up for you. Just go lay down real quick. I'm gonna make you something to eat. Cause, you know, since a kid, I've loved to cook. And that's where I became a chef from, was the struggle. Learning how to cook for myself and cooking for my sister and me. And that's really where the passion of where I got the name Chef Taylor. And I'm not just Chef Taylor because I call myself chef. I'm an actual chef, as you know. Which led me to work in the fucking field I do now. But as I'm moving out, she told me, if you leave, I'm gonna make you regret it. Didn't know what the fuck that meant. And I was seeing this girl in Arkansas, but from where I was staying at the time with her and my grandfather, it's probably like an hour and a half away. So not really that bad. I needed to get out of the house for the night. I brought my dog with me, and we just hit the road. And then I came back the next day, drunk as fuck, high as fuck, and I'm packing all my shit up. I've got my stuff in the car. My boxer, Sativa, my dog, she's in the house. I'm just waiting to get everything packed up. And before I leave, I was gonna let her go outside, you know, use the bathroom, and then we're just gonna hit the road. Don't know where we're gonna go. We're just gonna find somewhere to couch hop until I get my own place here in Nashville. And 3 fucking sheriff cars pull up on me, and these 2 officers walk up to me asking if I'm Taylor Young. I said, yeah, why? They said, it's about the incident this morning with your grandmother. I said, I wasn't even here this morning, so that's bullshit. Like, why are you here? And he said, we're here to put you under arrest. And not one time through the whole process did they ever actually tell me why I'm getting arrested. They just threw me up against the car and put my hands behind my back and handcuffed me, threw me in the fucking cop car. And as I get there, you know, I'm getting booked in and shit, and I'm asking them, why are you arresting me? And they said, well, the reason you got arrested is because of an aggravated domestic assault. And I said, that's bullshit. I don't understand what you're talking about. They said, quote unquote, it says here in the report that you had threatened your grandmother with a knife earlier this morning. I wasn't even here this morning. So I said, they called my grandfather. They couldn't get to him. You know, I'm using my phone call, trying to reach out, letting my sister know what happened, my father, my mother, and my father, which is my grandmother that I'm speaking of right now, that put all that bullshit on me. You know, in Tennessee, if you catch a domestic, it doesn't matter if there's proof behind it or not. Once you're in, you're in. So, as I'm getting booked in and shit, later on, I ended up finding out that she pressed a restraining order as well. So I can't reach out to him. Knowing what I know now today, it's because she didn't want him to tell the truth. And also, even if he did go to court, he's so out there now, it wouldn't hold up.
Right.
You know, having Parkinson's and slowly developing dementia, his statement wouldn't matter anyways. It's hers against mine. And in the state, they're just gonna look at this old woman and be like, yeah, he did that. With no proof behind it, never once did any of that shit, but you know, that's what the report's gonna be. So I end up spending 4 months in jail for something I didn't do, had a $40,000 bond, fucking, that's like $4,000 if you can come up with that.
Right.
And keep in mind, I'd already sold all my cars to help them. I moved out of my house and got a storage unit, put all my shit that I did own to my name in this storage unit. So I don't have a car. I've pretty much gave up all the money I had from these cars and just working all the fucking time, my caterings to help them. So I don't have shit. You know what I'm saying? As far as what I have to my name, I have fucking nothing except the clothes that I brought with me. My dog, obviously. But 4 months into jail, I go to court finally, and they came with me with a plea deal. The plea deal is we'll drop it to a simple domestic assault if you just go to a rehab. And at the time, I was so fucking stupid and in denial that I'm just like, I'm not a drug addict. I don't have a problem. I'm just gonna tell these motherfuckers I don't even drink, I don't do nothing. Man, I just smoke weed. You know, lying my fucking ass off, bro. Detoxing was probably the worst part because I just acted like I was sick. You know, I was so in denial about being an alcoholic and drug addict that like I couldn't even come to that realization with myself that like I'm sick right now.
Right.
Because of this shit. The amount I was drinking. I was drinking 4 or 5 fists every single fucking day. And on top of that, snorting OxyContins and then picking myself up with cocaine. So speedballing, really. My addict mind couldn't be like, so yeah, on the outside I was doing drugs. They would have probably gave me something inside just for sickness. But when I came to them and was like, yo, I feel like shit, I need to go see the nurse. He came back with this lunch tray, empty as fuck. And he looks at me and I'm like, what the fuck is this? He said, you see this right here? I said, I don't see shit. He said, that's the fucks I give. Go back to your cell. And I said, you motherfucker, man. So, you know, it's about a month in, I finally stopped detoxing and fucking feeling like shit, lying to my mom and everybody else that I get to talk to when I make my phone calls about everything, like acting like everything's cool. You know, I'm fighting every other day and shit because of past affiliations. Like, I finally end up getting out of there and going to this rehab because I almost fucked myself over and would have had to serve an 1129 and then 3 years in federal prison if I would have just kept on with what I was going on about, oh, I'm not a drug addict. When I finally just came to the conclusion, I was just like, I'm gonna fuck this deal up if I don't just go to a rehab. So I called my mom and I was like, yo, you gotta get in touch with somebody and just tell them I'm gonna do the deal. I'm gonna go to rehab. You know, I already signed the paperwork and shit, but I was trying to get myself out of that deal. Fuck rehab, I'm trying to just go home and do drugs and get high as shit and drink. That's what I wanna do. That's where my mind's at. Like, I'm not worried about the potential fact that I've gotta serve an 1129 and then potentially 3 years in federal prison. I just wanna go get fucked up.
Right.
That's all I want to do. Go get fucked up and cook. That's all I'm worried about. The first place they sent me was to recovery in Jackson. And if you're watching, fuck you piece of shits. Worst rehab I've ever known of because, you know, we're allowed to smoke cigarettes in there, but you can't vape. Didn't really make any sense to me, but I was there for 3.5 weeks, a couple days away from graduating. I got all my stickers as far as like good behavior, this, that, and the third, completed all my assignments. My case manager fucked with me heavy. And I was working the kitchen, like serving everybody, you know, do what I do. Just using my skills to an advantage to like give me some more get around shit. My fucking drug addict mind's like, I can loophole this shit. Well, somebody snuck in a vape during a visitation, and you know, not like THC, anything like that, straight nicotine. And I was in the kitchen, and vapes are like prohibited in this motherfucker. It sounds so corny and stupid even talking about a nicotine vape, but they brought it in, and they was like, yo, chef, you wanna hit this? I look around, check, see if anybody, I was like, man, fuck it, I'll hit it. Thinking nobody saw this shit. Somebody taking out the trash ended up seeing me. Didn't know that until later on. And he snitched on me. Got me and 7 other people kicked out for hitting the vape. So I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm gonna just go put myself in another rehab, forgetting the fact that this rehab I'm in is court ordered, you know? So I get myself into a new rehab the next day at Recovery in Dixon. And as I'm on the way there, my probation officer calls me and was like, yeah, so we found out about that's a violation of probation. Within the next hour, there's about to be a warrant for your arrest. I said, fuck me. I'm actually going to a rehab right now. Is there anything you can do? Call somebody like TDOC, Tennessee Department of Corrections, and like let them know I'm in. Like you can call right now. I'm on the way. I got my bags packed. I've got a bed ready for me. I'm headed there right now. And so I'm sitting here on the side of the road debating running, like just saying fuck this shit, you know, because that whole hour was probably the slowest hour of my life. Thinking like now that I'm sober, you know, been sober since I was in jail because I chose not to do drugs or anything like that. Plenty of shit was offered to me. Motherfuckers making hooch, you know, like I could have drank, I could have did anything I wanted, but like I was like, man, I'm gonna try this sobriety shit out. So the whole time with that and then included, I'm probably like 5 months sober. So now I have rational thinking. But my still dumbass is thinking about running, but also thinking about I'm about to go back to jail. And now I've been in my first ever rehab, learning about staying sober, learning about getting better, and I'm doing all this shit. And you know, I'm not a Christian, a Muslim, I'm a Buddhist. So in Buddhism, we don't believe in a God, we believe in a higher power. You know, we just believe that you should be a good person and lead by that example of what you want others to be like. The whole time, I'm trying to figure out something, asking something up above, why the fuck is this happening to me? Like, why are you trying to send me back to jail for some shit that I off the rip never even did? I'm sober now. You know, I just did this rehab. I'm trying to get into a new rehab. And then the call comes in and says, you're good. But this is like your only warning, your first and only slap on the wrist. If you get another one, it's mandatory. You have to reserve your whole sentence, including the time you were there. That won't count. And then potentially, you know, if I keep on fighting in there, I'm probably gonna end up going to prison. So I go to I'm there. It was nasty as fuck, roaches everywhere. And no, I don't mind saying this because y'all know y'all trifling. I'm calling people out as it is, you know. Like I'm not here to come on this podcast and bullshit. That's just not me. The people there at were cool. Mo was my case manager. It's just far as like the living was shitty. Like we had a curfew, which is to be like expected, but we can't have a car, and yet we can get a job. So like the only beneficial thing was there was no rent. You just kind of live.
Yeah.
You know, gotta go to classes and shit like that. Take your drug test. Woo, this, that, and the third.
How long was you at
I was at for about a month and a half, and then I got the call saying, well, on top of that, I left the part out where the deal was I have to complete a treatment program, meaning ILP, PHP, and then sober living, right? So doing all this shit, I completed my ILP from that didn't count, so that got canceled. Thinking the whole time that, okay, if I go here, I already completed my ILP, I'm going straight into PHP when I go to not realizing that they canceled all that out. I gotta restart. So I get the call like a month and a half later. I'm finna finish PHP, work on going into a sober living somewhere, maybe Nashville, maybe Dixon, maybe just go back to Jackson, maybe wherever the fuck. I'm not going to Memphis. I knew that. I'm not going to Memphis. They say, what do you mean you're about to finish PHP? You didn't even finish ILP. I said, yeah, no, I finished it. They said that shit didn't count. So all this time that you spent putting into PHP here, that doesn't count. And at this point, I'm ready to just kill myself. Cause like, I'm either gonna kill myself or I'm gonna relapse. Cause with me, I struggle with addiction and mental health. That's where my mind's at. And for a while, they wouldn't give me my meds there, so I'm off the rip, unmedicated from the shit that I'm finally taking, which I refused meds and therapy and all that for years. And then I find this place on Google which offers IOP, PHP, treats mental health, treats addictions, and they called it The Ranch. And so I reach out and they accept me. Expensive as shit, but they accept me. And so I get there, and one of the first few people I meet is your ass. You know, when I first get there, I'm so feeling like I'm out of place. Like when on the way there, I'm driving down these country ass roads, thinking like there's gonna be a whole bunch of cowboys and shit like that. Like I don't know what the ranch. The fuck you talking about? Riding horses and shit. Like I'm a city / kind of country boy. Been in the country, but like never this shit. You know. So I get there, and everybody's so welcoming. You know. Am I allowed to disclose people that have already left the ranch?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. Well, I meet some people, right? And everybody's all nice to me. And there's a lot of people in this I wish I could name by name because you know them. But I'll try and like word it without naming them.
There you go.
Yeah. I met this tall dude with hair looked like he got electrocuted. I met this older guy, probably like 70 something. I met this one skinny kid with tattoos. And then I felt at home. Like I started actually learning that I have a real problem. You know, but they didn't put it like the other place, which fuck you. You called me a useless junkie, and I don't even know what you want to start with that. That's yeah, if you know, you know. The ranch was like actually a place where I felt happy and at home and being treated like I was not a junkie or this, that, or the third, because if you want to go those terms, I was a young, rich junkie, because I never blew my money on drugs.
Right.
I got my drugs for free. I had money. The money wasn't the fucking problem. I was the problem. The behind the closed doors, what I'm doing to fix what all along I could have just seen a therapist, could have got on meds, could have done all this, could have fixed. But instead I chose drugs.
How long was you at the ranch?
I was at the ranch for 110 days. And, you know, I completed my PHP, IOP, I completed all that shit. And I went from, can I name the houses? I can't name them. Okay, well, I went from
You went from the residential house
for mental health
to the IOP PHP house.
The IOP PHP house, yes. And I get out, I go to, I can name my sober living. Okay, I went to Design for Living. I met Justin Coggins through my case manager there. Sweet woman, great woman. And I had one of the greatest therapists ever. I can't name his name, but he knows who he is, a legend. This whole time I'm fixing myself, as I'm getting out, I'm like, from this point, I've been in jail for 4 months, about close to a month and a half, and now I just did 110 days in a mental health place that also covers addiction. So like, as far as like my social skills at this point, other than people that struggle with the same shit I did. I'm about to get like a goldfish thrown in a shark tank,
Right.
right back into the world. So close to a whole year, I was isolated. You know what I mean? Which isn't a long time, but when you're coming from that to sober, your mind's still stuck wherever you started doing drugs. So now I'm getting to experience all this shit, and now you're gonna throw me sober into the world that I just came from not being sober in. And I get there, it's not that bad. No. Now, for the first little bit, I did not have anywhere to put my clothes. I didn't have fucking money. I barely really had shit, you know. I had stuff that people from the ranch had like donated to me and gave me. And
What skills you use till this day?
what skills do I use to this day? I use deep breathing. Obviously I cook, and I don't just cook to like put out dishes. I cook to get the shit out of my head, because it makes me happy, and it makes other people happy, and it makes me happy doing it.
So that's your distracting skill.
Yes.
Yeah.
I go to the gym, which is a great benefit of Design for Living. If you get a job, you get a free gym membership. It's a complimentary to Justin Coggins, a legend. As I was leaving the ranch, I came to you, actually.
Because I was leaving.
Because you were leaving.
Because I was leaving.
And I said, I need a sponsor. Because I'm not going to be able to do this shit by myself.
Right.
And as soon as I get out, I've got something that's like accountability. So I don't go back to doing what I did. Because with me, something I've learned in this addiction is that no addiction starts with addiction. It starts with you being mentally fucked up. Like, nobody just wakes up one day with a wonderful life, Grand Opry, shits and rainbows. I'm gonna try meth.
Right.
Like, that doesn't.
It don't happen that way.
Yeah, not always. I'm sure someone's done it, but it's not. We'll call it 99% of the time.
Right. 99% of the time something else has happened.
Yeah, there's some mentally shit going on.
Right.
Nobody just wakes up like, yeah, I'm gonna get fucked up. Like, that's just what I'm gonna do. No, that's crazy. I end up paying off, like just recently, probably last month, paying off my court fees, probation fees, and I went from having my probation officer like despise me to she loves me. Like, I even check on my probation officer now. I don't just like call her up and, you know, yeah, everything's good.
Bye.
Yeah, bye. I'm checking on her life. I know about what she does on the outside. Like, she loves when I call now. And I heard that I have a chance of finally getting all this shit expunged. Because one, there's no proof. Two, there's a lot of shit coming to light about why I didn't, or that I didn't do it. And three, I'm sober. Like, all this shit came from sobriety. I recently got a car a couple days ago. I got a job that I love and quit a job that I hated, but needed money. You know, I walked every single day to work, and then walked every other day to meetings, whether it be a meeting that's not too far down the road, which is like 0.8 miles, so not that bad. But sometimes it's miles, the meeting's like 10 miles away, so to and from is 20, on top of the X amount of walking that I've done that day. So in that 8 hours, and then some days I'd work a 17-hour shift at this job I hated, and then get up the next day, work an 8-hour shift, if not another 13, 14, go to a meeting the next day after working an 8-hour. Like, it was fucked. But I learned that my higher power was testing me. He's like, are you gonna relapse and go back to the same shit because it's easy? Are you gonna go fight like you used to because it's easier for you to do that? Like, I'm a professional fighter. I could have easily went underground and just got some money that way, but then I'd be going against everything that I believe, which is be a good person and do your best not to harm yourself or others. While harming others, that's also a form of self-harm.
Right.
Because whether people see it that way, once you say you love this shit, you love hurting yourself. Because I don't care who you are, how good you fight, you're gonna get your shit rocked. You know, you're not gonna come home with at least something bleeding. Like that's just the way it is. But if you love it, it's self-harm. So that's another way to feel something.
So you got about a year under your belt now.
Yeah. Thanks to my sponsor and myself, obviously. You know, I've done.
You did the work. I was just a guide.
Yeah. I've done my 12 steps, but I still practice step 1 every day, which is to admit that we're powerless.
There you go.
You know, and through all this, the one thing I've admitted my wrongs to everyone. You know, said my apologies. Not I'm sorry, because I'm sorry means jack shit. I could say sorry to all the exes and old bridges I burned, but I kept doing it, right? What was different this time was, hey, is there anything that's been left out? Like, is there anything else I can do to make it up to you? Like, is there something that I don't remember or haven't done yet to fix this? Like, I appreciate you talking to me, and I appreciate your time. Not just, I'm sorry.
Right.
What the fuck does sorry mean? Because sorry didn't mean shit when you did it again and 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 kept getting fucked up. Like, that didn't mean anything. But now, today, I have a sponsee of my own. So it's sponsee, me, sponsor, and grand sponsor.
Grand sponsor.
Yeah, grand sponsor. And it's a long line of recovery. And then maybe one day, my sponsee will have a sponsee and a sponsee. So it's like,
yeah, you show it,
family.
you're spreading it.
Yeah. And now we have this, the podcast that is gonna save millions of lives.
Just trying to save one.
Hey. One life saves other lives.
That's right.
So that's millions.
And then, like, on the last note, what would you tell somebody if they didn't think they could do it?
If I didn't think they could do it?
Like, if somebody's out there watching this and they're like, that all sounds good, but I don't think I can do it, what would you tell them?
You gotta tell yourself that you can do it if you wanna do it. Because there's a difference, right? You need to get sober and you wanna get sober. You might know that you need to get sober because you're fucked up. Or you might want to get sober because you know you're fucked up. But that's not what it means. You have to want to get sober and get sober. That's all it really boils down to is get sober. Like, you just do it. Whether it be you reach out and tell someone you need help, path, a friend, just go to an AA meeting, NA meeting, EA meeting, CA meeting, whatever the case may be, you just start doing it. Like, I never in my life thought I would actually ever be sober, living a good life that I am now. Like, while my father, hates my grandmother for all the lies and shit that they did, I look back and for a while I had a resentment myself toward her. But I had to let that resentment go and realize that just people are shitty. But something I've learned in Buddhism is that sometimes, and even in other religions, they believe the same thing. Shitty things happen to make good things happen. All that happened so I could get sober. It didn't happen to hurt me, because all this would be erased very soon. It happened because I knew, or my higher power knew, that I myself could not get myself sober. And if you want to get sober, you can do it. It's just one day at a time, whether it's a minute at a time or an hour at a time. Chef Taylor believes in me.
And with that being said, if anybody needs help, please reach out to us on Instagram at the Morning Juice Pod. You can leave a message there or on our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time on the Morning Juice. Bye.